Labour Party National Chairman Julius Abure and his party says they've lost confidence in INEC a day after the Commission postponed the governorship election. And tonight, we take a closer look and we analyze the postponement of the state elections, the implications and what this means for Nigeria's politics and future elections. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Wakimaloye in Abuja. Let's begin by letting you know what the national chairman of the Labour Party, Comrade Julius Abure, said today. He says they've passed a vote of no confidence on the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Mr. Abure at a press conference today in Abuja says his party no longer has confidence in INEC. Take a listen to him.
Even though INEC has assured us and the courts in their affidavits, a counter affidavit, to say that the records in the beavers will be saved in their back-end server, we have our doubts. Because this is not the first time INEC will be telling us that they have server, they will upload to their server, and so on and so forth. But the courts, in their wisdom, have given them that privilege, and you could see that immediately they got that judgment, they shifted the election. So if they knew they were going to postpone the governorship election for a week, why did they go to court to go and vary the order? There was absolutely no need for it, because one of the reasons they gave to the court was that if they allow us to inspect beavers, it will definitely affect.
That the national chairman of the Labour Party, Mr. Julius Abure. We'll be discussing in detail what the postponement means. In fact, we analyzed the beavers device. How long will it take, for example, to be able to upload? I mean, based on the explanation of INEC and all of the issues that have been thrown up. INEC says it has a back-end server, and now that will be preserved. A lot of issues. We'll be dissecting all of these for you tonight. And don't forget, we have one of the leading candidates in Abia State who will be speaking to us about his ambition for the seat in Abia State. So stay with me, everyone, because we need to check around the country for your political roundup stories. And my colleague, Kela Megua, is standing by to bring us up to speed. Kela.
Thank you, Seun. Good evening, I am Kela Megua, and these are your political roundup stories for today. The Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, has thrown its weight behind the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, over its decision to shift the date for the governorship and state assembly elections. Addressing a news conference in Abuja after an emergency meeting of the council, the national chairman of IPAC, Mr. Yabagi Sani, says INEC needs more time to prepare for the elections in view of the ruling of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, which granted the commission's request to reconfigure the bimodal voter accreditation system ahead of the election.
It is indeed a difficult time for all lovers of democracy in Nigeria and calls for understanding and maximum support to INEC.
The governorship candidate of the Social Democratic Party in Ogun State, Anthony Ojeshina, has announced that he is stepping down for the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Ladi Adebutu, in the governorship election in the state. Mr. Ojeshina told journalists in Abeokuta, the state capital, that his decision became imperative for improved socio-economic development of the state.
We're going to make sure that after this election, we continue to push to ensure creating a model state.
The Labour Party in Adamawa State has disowned its governorship candidate, Umaru Mustafa, over alleged anti-party activities during the presidential election. At media briefing in Yola, the organizing secretary of the party in Adamawa State, Mr. Vandi Ezra, accused the LP candidate of jeopardizing the chances of candidates of the party during the elections and must be viewed with all seriousness. The party has declared their support for the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Senator Aisha Binani.
And fully support the gubernatorial ambition of an aspiration of distinguished Senator Aisha Ahmed Binani of the All Progressives.
And the governorship candidate of the African Democratic Party in Ogun State, Mr. Olubuyi Otegbie, is urging the residents of Abafemi Owode local government area to vote for him in this month's governorship election. Addressing his supporters during the rally, Mr. Otegbie promised to improve on the state of the infrastructure of the state if voted as governor. Ahead of the governorship and state assembly elections, the National Working Committee of the Accord Party has dissolved the Oyo State Executive Council for endorsing the incumbent governor and People's Democratic Party candidate Seyi Makinde against the party's candidate Adebayo Adelabu. In a statement signed by the chairman of the Accord Party, Mr. Nalado, he says those relieved of their offices are the state chairman, Prince Kolade Ojo, Yinka Dairo, who is the Oyo State Accord Party secretary, and the entire executive committee members of the party in Oyo State. The National Working Committee of the party has also constituted a 5-man caretaker committee to steer the party to victory in the state. The People's Redemption Party, PRP, in Adamawa State has called on the state government to reverse orders suspending the activities of NGOs in the state. Speaking at a news conference in Yola, the state capital, the call was made by the leader of the party in the state, Mr. Nuruddin Nyako, charging the governor of the state, Umar Fintiri, to identify the NGOs involved in the irregularities and take necessary measures in addressing them. Some Igbo elders under the aegis of Igbo Patriotic Forum are calling on President Muhammadu Buhari and the Inspector General of Police to reopen police stations in the southeast, which have been closed for over 3 years. Addressing journalists in Abuja, the chairman of the forum and former chairman of the Police Service Commission, Mr. Simon Okeke, notes that the closure has led to increased insecurity in the southeastern zone of the country. The group also expresses their disappointment at the Independent National Electoral Commission for some of the lapses recorded during the 2023 presidential election and appeals to all aggrieved parties to seek redress in court. Those are the political roundup stories for today. It's back to you, Sean.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. So, at about midnight yesterday, INEC gave a confirmation and released a statement to the effect that there will be a rescheduling of the governorship and state houses of assembly elections. And that statement, INEC says that following the ruling of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal on the reconfiguration of the bimodal voter accreditation system used for the presidential election held on the 25th of February 2023, the Commission met to assess its impact on the Commission's preparations for the governorship and state houses of assembly elections scheduled for Saturday, 11th March 2023. The Commission, therefore, in that statement, announced that the election stated for the 11th, which is supposed to be 2 days away, on Saturday, has now been shifted by 1 week to the 18th of February, March rather, 2023. But this has a lot of implication on our election, on logistics, on operations, on the beavers, on a whole lot of things, even our politics. Tonight, we'll be dissecting all of these issues. First and foremost, I mean, a lot of questions might be on the mind of everybody that didn't INEC see this coming? Why do they have to wait till that last minute? That long when they knew that this could happen? What is it about these beavers operations? INEC in that statement also talked about the back-end server and how much it is going to protect it so that, you can get the citizen as a certified true copy of the result on the beavers and a whole lot of issues. But how does these beavers operate? Is it like your mobile phone? Is it like your tablet, just the way INEC has described it? How long does it take to configure or to transmit this result, the IRF portal, and a whole lot of these issues? Let's get some answers technically. And we'll also get operations answer tonight, because we'll get someone who had worked with INEC for several years and a lawyer to explain all of these issues also for us. But let's get some IT expert opinion on this. I'm being joined virtually from Lagos by an IT Sheston. Thank you so much, Mr. Sheston, for joining us tonight. Give us an understanding of these beavers. It looks to me, INEC has described it as a game changer. But this idea of the reconfiguration and the transmission of result, the reason INEC gave was the fact that it will take them a longer time to be able to first take out all the result that is needed, upload it, then reconfigure it. So those are two different processes. Give us an understanding of technically what this means.
Thank you, Sean. It's good to be back on your show again. And, you know, the INEC is right that BVAS, the Bimodal Voter Acquisition System, is a game changer. That INEC is right about. But as with all forms of technology, you know, there's a difference between a game-changing technology and game-changing application of that technology. A very simple example, most of the mobile phones we have in our pockets are even more powerful than some of the supercomputers that people used for research in the 70s, in the late 60s and 70s. But guess what? There is literally none of us that use these mobile phones as much as as much as the power that they have. And I think this is where there is a challenge with what happened during the presidential elections. INEC promised that the BVAS was going to do its 3 levels of work. The first level is biometric accreditation, which is where it does the fingerprint or iris scan just to confirm that the person who is about to vote is the real person. And this did work. I was a witness to a scenario where a set of identical twins wanted to vote, and because one of them had voted, the other twin went through a lot of hoops before he could eventually vote, because the system, first of all, recognized him as the same person. But of course, because fingerprints are different, iris scans are different, he was eventually able to vote. So clearly, that function of the BVAS worked in most cases. And I think you can see from many of the reports that that function worked. The second function, which the jury is still out on, is the function that allows the BVAS to transmit results, or not transmit results in the sense of result, but transmit the image of the results as scanned by the electoral officials and sent to the cloud. And by the way, when I keep hearing INEC and others talk about server, I think we sort of confuse people. Because yes, there is a server where the information is sent to, but the idea of saying that there is a safe and secure server somewhere as if it's a physical storage in the sense of INEC's management of it is a bit misleading, and that goes to my third point, which is what the BVAS can do. As a device that has an operating system, that has storage, and that has the many functions of a digital device, the BVAS can store information. So when INEC says it wants to reconfigure, and I believe that the reconfiguration across the over 170,000 polling units means that each device is tied, literally, is configured to work in that particular polling unit. And the reason why that is important for a device to be attached or to be connected or to be literally geolocated to a particular polling unit is to guard against a scenario where people can buy a similar device. Because to be honest, if you really look at it, I can tell that device looks like an EKEMP device that runs I see what it looks like. So anybody with any possibility of being able to get a similar device may then say, okay, you know what, we've seen it, let's get something and put data on it and then use it to claim that this is what we use.
So Benga, apologies to Button. So let me get two quick straight questions out. You described that device, you compare it to an EKMP M8. There's been a lot of comparison to the capacity of the Beavers and the EKMP, which is said to be also a biometric tablet produced by Samsung that has up to 1.3 gigahertz of space and of speed and about 2 gigabytes of storage space on it. So the question is, does INEC need to delete or remove the presidential election result before it can use it for the governorship election result?
Sean, and I know if I'd said yes or no, that would have been quoted by many warring parties. It's not that straightforward. Technically, that device can store information for multiple elections because it depends on how many voters you have in.
Benga, it does look like we lost audio from your end. Is there something wrong?
I started hearing something else entirely, like another studio was talking. So
apologies for that. I mean, I was afraid for a moment if somebody has hacked into your system, maybe, yeah. or your server has been disrupted by something. Please go ahead.
So this is beautiful, and I'm glad you just use the word server from my end again. The idea is compare the device that INEC uses to your computer. And this is a very simple comparison. You don't have to delete all the work you did in 2022 for you to start working in 2023. But if that device is going to be used in a different office by a different person, what you may want to do is to, first of all, make sure that you upload that information to the cloud, and then make sure that you have a digital copy, a certified digital copy of what happened on February 25. Because, by the way, that is what INEC will present during the entire tribunal process. They will present, they will not be, the physical device is something, but what they will really be presenting is a digital copy of all the results on February 25. And that's why they keep referring to the IREV. The problem with the IREV, though, is that on February 25, INEC failed in its mission to make all of the polling unit results available on IREV in real time or immediately after the elections. If they had said to citizens and to everyone and all stakeholders that what they are doing now is to make sure that they retrain people, not just reconfigure the device, because reconfiguring the device can mean many things, and it can even lead to suspicion. Reconfiguring the device does not mean deleting the data. It literally means that INEC needs to back up that data, because I do not necessarily think that INEC needs to delete the data for the presidential elections for you to use the device.
Okay.
So the answer you asked, it's not a yes or a no answer. Technically, the answer is they don't need to delete it, but they clearly need to maintain the integrity of that information, which is why they need to get a digital copy, confirm the digital copy before it then changes hands to be used again on March 11th. Oops, not 11th anymore, 18th.
18th. So what we know is that the devices are polling unit typified. So it's now been designed and configured for polling units. So if it's the same polling unit that you use the device for in the first election and you're using it for the second election, some people are asking, why are they configurable? INEC knows better. But this is another tricky part, which we need your expertise on. You know the magnitude of work that went into the IREV portal. Basically, all the over 176,000 polling unit result was to be uploaded. And let's assume there is a certain amount of the space that every result sheet would take. So you can understand the magnitude of what the IREV portal should do. But somehow, something happened to the IREV portal on election day. The pathway to the IREV portal became a failure. It didn't work as planned. Give us a scenario of what could have happened that IREV portal failed Nigeria, failed INEC. What could have gone wrong, Benga?
So I think this is where we need to separate technology from project management. The first thing that went wrong on February 25 was management related, not technology related. That's the reason why, I mean, as at now, we have 165,143 results that have been uploaded versus 176,846. There are, polling units where elections didn't hold. There are, polling units where elections, were cancelled and things like that, which of course doesn't mean they shouldn't upload what happened there. But on February 25, first of all, a lot of the people who were supposed to upload this result gave excuses. In my own polling unit, for example, the INEC representatives said that they didn't have data, and people provided data for them. And this happened in many places. So one is the project management failure of backup data. Now, this is assuming there was no deliberate attempt not to upload the data. The second is that there was a conversation about offline mode, which anybody who uses any cloud, application will understand that if you're working on a spreadsheet online and your internet access goes off, you can still continue working. You can still type, you can still do anything you want to do, as long as the device does not go off before you get restored access, even if it hibernates. And you can open it up again. Once you connect, that data will continue to be transmitted and will be updated on the cloud. So we had a data challenge, and the second was the fact that clearly I don't think there was enough training for people who were
So Gbenga, apologies, if I may provide some bit of scenario to that, maybe in just 30 seconds you can help out. What we understand and what we're trying to find out, and hopefully INEC can unmute itself and come forward and come clean to Nigerians and explain what exactly went wrong, is the fact that there was a pathway to the IREF portal in which everybody have access to. That in some way failed, and perhaps there was another pathway that was designed which were in fact slowed down, and that was one of the reasons. I mean, the question I ask is, could there be a reason where that portal, the pathway was compromised internally, or any other sense? You are the expert here, such that they had to resort to an alternative, which took a long time. Then it took almost evening before we started seeing some results coming in, albeit very slow.
I do not want to, add to any conspiracy theory here, but technically, it is possible that there was a compromise, that there was a violation of the integrity of the server, and someone had access to it. That's possible, but we wouldn't know until INEC provides a lot more information, or the technology team in INEC. Secondly, we don't know that, and this is what I've seen from the way the platform performed on the day of the elections versus the day after the elections and 2 days after. And I was monitoring this, and what I saw was that INEC clearly did not anticipate the amount of stress that will come on the server if 176,846 polling units are uploading at the same time. I don't know if this simulation was done. I don't know if there was a budget constraint, because what typically happens at times is, you need to pay for a particular bandwidth, you need to pay for a particular size, and then you look at the cost and you say, well, we may not have more than 30%, and you pay for less. And it was clear, very clear to me, and I'm saying this and I can defend it anywhere, that on the day of the elections, there was a lot of activity going on the INEC website, such that even the INEC website, INEC.gov.ng and INECNigeria.org, kept going on and off. And you could tell, anyone who works with WordPress could tell that this is a scenario where there's so much stress on this platform that wasn't prepared for and wasn't elastic enough. So it is very possible that also happened. And it is also possible that there was a compromise or a deliberate attempt from inside INEC, but those will be theoretic analysis for now. All right.
Thank you so much, Gbenga, for those insights there. I know you are pressed for time and you need to go, so thank you so much for your time. I might have to drag you virtually back at some point, because these issues need to be tracked. We need to move forward. Our election also is somewhat a progress for our democracy, consistent election, and if you see some kind of improvement, it shows some kind of improvement in our democracy. But thanks so much, sincerely, Gbenga, for your time tonight.
Thank you so much, Sean. I hope that INEC hasn't given tech a bad name, because now people are beginning to say maybe we shouldn't use tech in the elections. The problem was not technology, and I think this is very clear, and we need to say this. The problem was not technology. The problem was the implementation or the possible compromise that is being discussed.
Thank you so much. You. Yeah, appreciate it. So let's switch gears now and hear from operational and legal point of view right now.
Has assured us and the courts in their affidavits, a counter affidavit, to say that the records in the beavers will be saved in their back-end server. We have our doubts, because this is not the first time INEC will be telling us that they have server, they will upload to their server, and so on and so forth. But the courts, in their wisdom, have given them that privilege, and you could see that immediately they got that judgment yesterday, they shifted the election. So if they knew they were going to postpone the governorship election for a week, why did they go to court to go and vary the order? There was absolutely no need for it, because one of the reasons they gave to the court was that if they allow us to inspect beavers, it will definitely affect the timelines for the election. But surprisingly, after getting the courts to grant them that request to configure the beavers, you saw that they immediately shifted the election. So one has a lot of doubts about the truthfulness, about the patriotism, about the character, about the behavior, about the integrity of INEC to do what is right.
All right, then let's get some perspectives to this matter. The beavers reconfiguration and the postponement of the governorship election from the March 11th to the 18th of March 2023. I'm now being joined by a former director of voter education in the Independent National Electoral Commissioner and a very senior lawyer, Mr. Oluwole Osazuzi, who is also a Channels Television election consultant. Thank you so much indeed, Mr. Osazuzi, for your time.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Give us a sense of why you think it was needed that INEC postpone the election by a week.
Thank you. With the furore that arose out of the challenges that the Commission had with the presidential National Assembly elections, especially with the beavers and the upload of results, you could not envisage a situation with the tension of the country, with the uncertainty, with all that has happened in the last 10, 12 days. I don't think INEC could afford to get it wrong again. Things went all right last time around, and confidence, I think, is at an all-time low. Some people may begin to get over it, but I think the vast majority of Nigerians are not satisfied. I don't think the Commission itself is satisfied with the way things turned out. Having said that, elections were long scheduled. A year ago, elections were scheduled to hold, more than a year ago, scheduled to hold on the 11th of March for the governorship, and for those states that have governorship elections and the State Houses of Assembly. You had to get it right. You just had to be right. And in the last time, I think part of the problem was that INEC chose timing over process. There was a call to be made. Do you delay things and ensure you follow the process to the letter, even if it means delaying this thing for a week or for however period of time? Or do you, save time, save tension, just go ahead and bypass some of the processes laid down in your regulations? I think it took the former. This time around, I think process triumphed over timing. If they had gone ahead with the timing, I don't think this election, the governorship and State House of Assembly elections, will probably be come out the same way, or if not worse, than the presidential and National Assembly elections did. Because you need the beavers, and the way things are done, you needed to reconfigure these beavers, and it takes time to do so.
Beavers was not a problem in the first election. it was a situation, I mean, so a lot of people had, posited that beavers worked in most places.
Yes.
But the concern was the transmission of the results that have been taken with the beavers onto the IRF portal. And I'm not sure, based on what INEC is saying, that, well, the IRF portal, they had a technical issue, and perhaps they've been able to fix it, and the back end is working and all of that, and just a few thousand left out of the over almost 180,000 polling unit results that are supposed to be uploaded. But the beavers is the question here. This is at the center of the reason for the postponement of the election. Is that a genuine or tenable reason for INEC to postpone the election?
You're asking me to pass a valid judgment, but unfortunately, it's difficult for me to do so when I don't have all the facts. I can only work within the purview of the facts presented by the Commission itself and is in public domain. Maybe if I was still in the Commission, I would have gotten a better insight than I did. Now, let me approach your question this way. First of all, there are at least two dimensions to the beavers. Don't forget, beavers was used for authentication, and I think by and large, most commentators acknowledge that it worked very well. But it also was used for the upload, the scanning or taking a photograph of the result sheets and uploading it. Yes, they said they had technical glitches. I don't know the exact nature. Most of us don't know the exact nature of those technical glitches. Was it a question of equipment failure uploading from the beavers to the server? Or was it the server not in a position to receive them? We've heard conflicting or different stories about that. So I'm not a technical person, and I don't know what the technical things are, and the Commission hasn't come up with all the facts. Perhaps an inquiry, either an independent one or by the Commission in the coming days or weeks, will give us better insights into that. Now, was it a tenable reason? Let me put it this way. The Commission has power under Section 24 of the Electoral Act to postpone elections. Although that seems to suggest, if you read the wordings of the Act, it's more like natural disaster or other emergencies. So I want
national
to believe,
security, yeah.
Well, it didn't mention national security.
Yeah.
It just says if there's a likelihood of threat of violence, breakdown of law and order.
Issue of security was
serious insecurity. One has to threaten the breakdown, not just insecurity. There's always insecurity in the country, but at least one, you're right, one that will threaten national security or breakdown of law and order in a particular locality or around the whole country. INEC has a power to postpone, or natural disaster, or such other emergency. Now, I want to believe that INEC has come under that provision of other emergency, because it doesn't even say that if there's equipment failure or glitches with equipment that you can postpone an election. But I want to believe it's liberal enough and flexible enough to say it's an emergency situation occasioned by this urgent need to reconfigure the beavers. So in that sense, I think you'll say it may be tenable. Whether Nigerians accept that or don't accept it, maybe somebody directly from INEC involved in the process might come and expatiate a little bit more, because that is, I think, is what is necessary, because INEC should be building confidence, trying to rebuild trust in it. Trust is low in many areas now. We have to do all we can because it's the Commission. INEC is the only person who can conduct elections. Mm-hmm. So there has to be some level of trust, there has to be some level of understanding and level of cooperation between INEC and the people itself, the good citizens of this country. There has to be so. So we have to give them benefit of the doubt that this is a good enough reason, because they know, and we wouldn't have accepted, citizens would not have accepted if this governorship election turned out to be disastrous.
INEC is promising here that it will make sure that the back-end server, in fact, that you can get a certified true copies of the back-end data of the beavers, that also that the results, they are guaranteeing that the result on the beavers will be transmitted on the IRF and it will be viewable. These are some of the promises that it's now left whether Nigerians will believe INEC, because we've heard this over and over again, and it's also perplexing that INEC itself is not coming up beyond the paper statement that INEC is releasing. I mean, for those who manage information and communication, we know that it's needed. And trust is also based on what you earn, not what you think you deserve. INEC has been able to get the trust of Nigerians. Whether or not they can get a continued trust of Nigerians is left to them, how they manage the communication and information. But up until now, Nigerians will be able to judge whether or not INEC deserve that kind of. But when you are unable to earn, then you move to the realm of whether or not you deserve it. But I would like to really dwell on the necessity of the postponement. So the question is, first and foremost, I want to give INEC a benefit of the doubt. The fine, INEC needed to do what it needs to do, and they need to no excuse any longer. They need to get it right and all of that. How long do you think, technically speaking, it would take to back up? Because there are two stages now. They need to back up all the data on the beavers. Yes. Then also get it reconfigured for the new election. Right. Do they need more than 48 hours to do that?
Again, unfortunately, to answer that, we may a little bit have to dwell or make certain suppositions and dwell on the realm of information that is not all available to us at this point in time. My understanding is that some of these equipment, all of them, had to be brought to Abuja. And if that is the case, there's a logistics challenge in moving them up and down. And as far as my understanding, I'm not a technical person, as I keep saying, my understanding is that you probably have to, each one is polling unit specific. Mm-hmm. Data of all those in that polling unit or in that ward have been stored in the device. So, you know, it's not just a software issue. There's a software part of it, and there's also the thing that you have to reconfigure each one individually. Of course, you have to charge each one individually as well. So the issue is that how many days, that's really a technical question which only the Commission can answer. But my understanding is that each individual one has to be reconfigured, because now there are a couple of elections. I know that, like Kadrida, let me take an analogy with Kadrida. Kadrida was programmed in such a way that it's election specific. So if there's an election on the 11th of March, you program it from 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning when the polling is supposed to start, and you leave it till about, not 2:30 when it closes, but maybe about 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, by which time everybody on the queue ought to have been accredited and voted. The reason for this is not far-fetched. It's also a question of building trust. The reason is that, look, we don't want this thing to start so that you don't preload things before the time. Before the end, yeah. And also, you don't want it to go too far into the night, because when people are out of the polling unit, you go and do untoward things and put in more information, more data than is required and you got on the field. So it has to be programmed specifically under those parameters. And I think that was done. I don't know the technical terms for all those things. So you now have to reconfigure those ones for this election. Now, the time between declaration of results and the second election was 12 days or there. So there's enough time to do that. But now, because of the court order, do not tamper with these things. The court, I think the Commission obeyed that order and stayed behind and did not do anything with those equipment that the order covered. So they had to wait. And the ruling, the court did not come till about this time, late yesterday evening. So obviously nothing could be done, no action could be taken until they're sure that the all clear was given, that the order of the Court of Appeal was amended, because the initial order was don't tamper with these things. Now, reconfiguration would have meant tampering with it and disobedience of that court order. I think they said, let us wait until the court gives the all clear, which it did late yesterday evening. But
the question is that INEC knows, and I'm asking this because there's a lot of anger about the conduct of the last election, yes. The glitches that we're seeing, and I guess some of the anger that I consider that INEC needs to listen to is not the partisan anger. It's about the anger of those who took INEC's words Absolutely. As the gospel, yes. And they took it into that election, and they left everything they were doing, and you convinced them that, look, election will be credible. They traveled to the country. Some traveled from various residents yes. to wherever they choose to vote, and they spend a lot of money, their own money, to exercise their civic responsibilities. But now they've been disappointed by that. And the question is, as soon as the ex-parte order was given by the court, technically, INEC is the expert that needs to understand that as soon as this comes, it has messed up, it will have messed up the timeline in which they need to do this. I am assuming that INEC should have known since Monday that this election of Saturday will not hold. I think it's just commonsensical. That if you know, for example, that that Saturday is the day for, and if you don't book your flight on a certain date, you might not be able to travel. You know that there is a problem with your travel schedule. So if INEC has seen this happen, why did they wait until 5 p.m. when the court said they should reconfigure before they started meeting and now came out to say we postpone the election? I mean,
by 11:30 at night.
What do you say to Nigerians who are watching now that the kind of anger that I explained, is it justified?
Oh, certainly, I can understand their anger. If I was in the position, well, I was supposed to travel. I also felt some righteous indignation. A lot of people felt angry, and understandably so, because I know as a fact that a lot of planning went into this process, into the election. A lot of planning started years before, even before I left. Planning had already commenced towards the 2023 elections. It was ironic that one of the, I think, was it the EU or the NDIR, said, look, they were not satisfied with the planning. The planning was haphazard. And they also had some justification for what they saw on the field to say so. One would have expected that there'll be plan A and there'll be plan B. But the hindrance to taking it from Monday. Monday, they got the order. They now filed their application. Look, we need to amend this order if we're going to undertake this election on Saturday. They had to await the court ruling one way or the other. It wasn't given that the court will rule in their favor.
Mr. Uzi,
yes.
If the court had ruled otherwise, saying these beavers...
You shouldn't wait for the court to rule before you do plan B.
That means the election can hold.
Yes.
Because it's the same 176,000 beavers that you used in the presidential election that you will use.
Absolutely.
Now, that is given. It's almost... it goes without saying.
Yes.
And now the court gave... I mean, if they were waiting that the court would say reconfigure and they would be able to hold the election, one would have said, oh, INEC is right to have waited. But either the court ruled in their favor or not, yes, the election would have been postponed. That should have been foreseen by INEC, except if there's nobody in the commission, and I don't think it is, that actually do some kind of foresighting and project and, strategically plan. And I mean, you've worked in the commission for years. Yes. I'm very sure there are people who are operations people, who are strategy and planners in the commission who should have known before now that whichever way the case, in fact, lawyers, there are a lot of lawyers in the commission who have known whichever way this case goes or this order goes, we have to postpone the election.
Yes, indeed. A lot of people in the commission are well versed in elections. Many of them have been there since inception, since INEC was established in 1998. Some earlier than that. Quite a number of people are still there who worked with NEC, on. So yes, there's a reservoir of knowledge of processes and things that I have done. And I think an indication of that should have come when we realized, I've seen this, I told you, look, in 2019 election was postponed, in 2015 it was postponed, in 2011 it was postponed. It's almost 10 divided by 3, you get 3.333, that recurring decimal.
A nation that is cursed with postponement of elections.
I hope not, but...
No, it does look.
But sadly, 4 consecutive cycles they have now been postponed.
It's now a fact. 2011, postponement, and based on logistics. These are issues of logistics.
Yes. Planning ought to have addressed some of these issues. I don't know the mischief that could have been caused. They filed this application on Monday. It ought to have been taken. Maybe alternate plans or alternate arrangements will have been done. Or they probably, maybe, look, we suspend this indefinitely pending when the court rules. But I did read and saw on certain commentaries that said that, look, INEC was trying to blackmail the country when it threatened that the election might have to be postponed if the court ruled otherwise. That commentary was made. And because of the indignation, because of the anger, and look, let's look at it. How was trust built? INEC conducted elections in 1998, 99. Well, people just wanted to get rid of the military. It wasn't perfect, but acceptable. 2003, people were not happy. 2007 was the epoch of it all. So trust was next to zero. People did not trust. But with changes in personnel, with reforms that were brought into place, trust began to build up. And I think it reached a crescendo just in 2022. By the time you brought more technology, by the time you conducted Osun, Edo, Ekiti, Ondo, Osun, and then they saw the way technology improved the process. And Osun was picture perfect. People went to decide, oh, they could really do this. It was all the by-elections where it was. So expectations were now high, and people were ready to forgive the sins of the past. I think at that time, INEC became one of the most trusted public institutions. Now, it's a fragile, trust is a fragile thing. Once this one happened, and that is what compelled the commission to say, look, we can do this, we'll transmit real time, this will happen, that will happen. Unfortunately, it did not happen. So the trust crashed.
You think that INEC brought this present anger on itself?
In the sense that it's the one responsible for conduct of elections, in the sense that it had given assurances, in the sense that it had raised the people's hopes, that it had really promised and assured people that it will continue, it will do what has to be done. In that sense, you raise people's hopes a great deal. Some people say, well, you overpromised and you underdelivered, underachieved and delivered. Unfortunately, things did not work. Maybe some people say, I've read some technical reports, I read the National Computer Institute of Societies complain about certain things and stuff like that, that there should have been stress tests. I think some of those tests were carried out, but maybe not in the same way. BVAS was tested severally. There was a mock test. There were by-election tests.
There was a Saturday meant for that.
Yes. Yeah. Candidate was hardly done. It was just a little bit of candidate.
I do not agree with people who think that there were no preparations.
There were preparations, to be fair.
Because BVAS was not only thrown in the 2023 election. BVAS was used for 2 off-cycle elections. I witnessed it. I saw it. I was one of the journalists who said, this thing worked well. I've covered several elections. Yes. We thought that this was good. I mean, we are Nigerians, we see what happens. Absolutely. We thought that happened. Right. I mean, in terms of information and communication management, should INEC have done better?
I think that perhaps the wave of criticisms, the anger could have been stemmed. It wouldn't satisfy everybody, but I thought with more timely communication, more open, more robust communication, I think more people would have been ready to tolerate and probably forgive, or INEC will probably have shown more understanding. But where communication comes late, it doesn't too little, too late. People are already, their minds are already made up. The space has already been filled with misinformation, alternate information, alternate truths. So it's difficult for yours to now displace that which is there. And people tell you, oh, I saw this thing with my own eyes, you promised that, why didn't you? You should have prepared for technical. If by Saturday evening, for example, oh, we're experiencing technical glitches, but we're working on to resolve it, perhaps many people will have been more tolerant.
I mean, so these have implications. Campaigns have now been extended to Thursday, the 16th of March. Political parties will feel the pinch.
Everybody will feel the pinch, actually. You mentioned citizens who traveled, for example, and I saw social media, a lot of people traveled from abroad to come. They came, they registered, went back to their places of ordinary residence, and then came back to Nigeria to vote. Citizens will be affected. Some internal travels were done. Political parties, certainly. Candidates will be stretched a little bit. The commission itself, the nation itself will spend a lot of more money because there are consequences of such action. So everybody is put to some level of inconvenience and some level of expense, almost certainly.
All right, then let's pause the conversation for a moment and take a break. And when we come back, we might get some more thoughts from Mr. Oluwole Osaze-Uzi, but we will speak with Mr. Alex Oti, the Labour Party candidate in Abia State governorship election. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. Stay with us on the program. Let's now turn our attention to Abia governorship election. We might be getting some final thoughts later on from Mr. Osaze-Uzi, but I'm being joined virtually. By the Labour Party governorship candidate in the Abia State governorship race, Mr. Alex Oti, joins us virtually. Thank you so much, Mr. Oti, and it's good to see you. First and foremost, the election was supposed to hold on Saturday, but it's now obviously going to hold on the 18th of March. How does that come to you?
Well, Sharon, thank you very much for having me on your program. We are not very surprised, but then we're also a bit disappointed because a lot of plans had to change. When we saw the back and forth at the courts, and of course the way the February 25 election was handled by INEC, we began to think that it may be possible to postpone the election. One of the reasons is the configuration of the BVAS. And our inquiries show that it takes anywhere between 4 to 5 days to reconfigure the over 170,000 or more beavers machines. And when Monday passed, Tuesday, and there was nothing from INEC, so we began to prepare for the election on the 11th, only to be hit yesterday by the postponement. The first thing to say is that it changes a whole lot of things. A few people who had come from abroad and from Lagos and other parts of the country, we are going to leave by Monday, Tuesday. Some of them cannot reschedule those trips. So their votes and probably their services would have been lost. 1 more week of campaigns mean more expenses, more resources to be deployed, and these were not in our plans. But having said that, whether the election is holding on the 11th or 18th or any time, I can assure you that we are ready.
Well, so let's jump straight into the issues relating to the contest. The last election, the presidential election, and how it turned out, the figures your party, the Labour Party, garnered in Abia State, does that in any way have an effect, or will that have an effect on your chances?
We're the ones that worked, the obedience, and Labour Party particularly. The same situation that Nigeria finds itself today, where everybody's yearning for credible leadership. It's also the same situation Abia is in. 24 years down the line, what we have seen is transfer. I have defined a godfather as it's inferior to him, or somebody is superior to. So you've seen leadership to everybody in Abia, or most people in Abia, today want a change. And they will do everything to ensure that that change happens. In 2015, they all came out, worked so hard, and cast their votes. That election, I won it. It was confirmed by the Court of Appeal, but the Supreme Court, in its wisdom, reversed the decision of the Court of Appeal. And I believe that Abians are angrier today than they were in 2015. So the votes you saw where out of the 8 House of Representatives seats, we took 6. We'll probably take 1 more at the courts. And out of the 3 senatorial seats, we took 1 and probably will take 1 more. That shows strength. And then in terms of the presidential election, in spite of all the difficulties, we're able to give massive votes to our presidential candidates. So we are very positive that the same thing will be repeated. We have had the ruling party release threats to Mr. Peter Obi not to come to Abia State because he allegedly had an agreement with the governor of the state where the governor was supposed to deliver him. My response to that has been that anyhow you look at it, and I know Peter Obi very well, I do not think that agreement exists. But let's even agree without conceding that that agreement existed. The question to ask, or the thing to say, is that the governor himself reneged on the agreement. Because if you had an agreement to deliver a presidential candidate the same day he was running for a senatorial seat, and he failed to deliver himself, in fact, he came third, then it follows that he was not the one that delivered the presidential candidate. We, the Labour Party, delivered the presidential candidate. So I would like to tell all Abia people to ignore the threat coming from the Abia state government because they actually supported another candidate and not the Labour Party candidate, just like most of the G5 governors.
Okay, this is your third time wanting to become the governor of Abia State after you exited your active practice in the banking sector. Why do you think you will be third time lucky?
Well, so, you know, like I started by saying, nothing has changed. If anything has changed for the worse. Quite frankly, offering myself, somebody had done what I wanted to do in 2015, and I've assured Abia people that all I require is 8 years to take them out of bondage, to develop the state, to ensure that salaries are paid on time, to ensure that we have infrastructure, to ensure that our state leaves that territory where we are being pitied, we are being made a butt of jokes. So if somebody had done it, I wouldn't offer myself anymore. But unfortunately, if anything has happened between 2015 and now, it's been more debt. Our debt profile as at 2015, when the former governor handed over to the present governor, was about 34.5 billion. The current governor has run that debt to about 190. It's now somewhere about 35%. Unemployment is almost twice the national average of 33.3%. Unemployment in Abia today is about 51%. So nothing has changed, and that is why I'm in this race. So if anybody can tell me that something has changed in his own territory, and I'm talking about everywhere, including the part of the state where the governor comes from. So I can assure you that Abia people cannot wait to cast their votes and effect a fundamental change in the leadership of the state. And everything succeeds and fails on the altar of leadership. Our leadership selection process has been very wrong. All sorts of propaganda, where you come from, the church you worship, and all that. All those have been what have been fed people. But people are wiser now, and they just want somebody that can deliver the state from bondage. That's why I'm here. I'm here to create wealth. I'm here to move people out of poverty. I'm here to industrialize the state and put it on the map. Today, we are number 32, Abia, 32 out of 36 states in the ease of doing business index. It is sad for a part of the country that was easily the fastest growing economy in the world. So I believe I am going to be more than lucky in this third attempt. Like I told you, the first time, the second time, I won, but they were all stolen. Now the process has changed. In spite of all the discussions about BVAS and all that, I still believe that the BVAS is a game changer. I believe that something must have gone wrong and it has to be fixed. And the INEC needs to actually redeem its image, because a lot of us were very, very hopeful and very, very excited that votes would count this time. And I followed the election in Ekiti and Osun. What happened on the 25th is not a representation of what happened in Osun and Ekiti and their last election. So my plea is that INEC should solve the problem before the election of March 18. Thank you.
So quickly, you want to be governor because you think that things have not changed and you have a business to turn things around. But if there is one area that gives you a lot of worry, what would that be? What aspect would that be? And what exactly are you going to do about it in specific terms?
Thank you. There are a lot of areas, and if you engage people from IBI, they will tell you. But a particular area that worries me is what we do with our young people. Today, a lot of them are unemployed, a lot of them are hungry and angry. And if you have not taken decisions that will help you create jobs for the people, all you see is poverty. And it is also poverty that drives people to criminality and criminal actions. So when you see banditry going up, when you see unknown gunmen all over the place, when you see kidnapping, armed robbery, it's not spirits that are perpetrating those vices. It's actually human beings, children that we have given birth to, that we have sent to school, that have graduated and roam the streets for 2-3 years, and they can't find anything to do, but they must survive. So at some point, they get recruited into crimes and criminality, and they become criminals. And then you can't justify it. He stays idle, and then he dies out of hunger. He gets engaged in criminal activities, and chances are that he will die or he will survive. So he will take his decision and say, okay, I'll die and I die. If I die as a criminal, so be it. And that's what is happening. So I would like to, first of all, ensure, because a lot of our people are very creative, they are very hardworking. They are not criminals by birth, they are circumstantial criminals, those ones that get into crime. So I want to pull them out of crime. I want to create jobs for them. I want to assure them of good life because they're entitled to it. So all right. That is one area that I believe that I need to hit the ground running from day one to ensure that our people have things to do, live a good life, and
Mr. Oti, yeah. Let's take a breather, and I'd like to know in specific how you hope to deal with that and tackle it, because some other governors in the Southeast region have made those promises. But how, in your own way, on your thinking or your plan and strategy, you're hoping to do that in specific? We'll come back after the break to talk about that. Stay with me, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's get back to the conversation with Mr. Alex Oti, the Labour Party governorship candidate in Abia State. So, Mr. Oti, you were saying that one thing that is paramount in your mind and your plan is to get those people who are behind the violence and the sort of the insecurity that we see in the state out of the street and get them gainfully, get them engaged gainfully. So how do you hope to get these jobs? How long will it take you, for example, because you said you are going to hit the ground running. How long, for example, are you going to get this done when should you be elected governor? And how much of these jobs can you get in the first place?
Thank you, Sean. I think the most important thing is to understand what you intend to do and understand how you want to do it. So we have a comprehensive plan that is put together. This plan understands that job creation is supposed to be supported by government, while the private sector, or through a partnership, the jobs are created by the private sector. So what we intend to do is to, first of all, massively rebuild and create infrastructure. So I had talked about our ease of doing business. That's one of the reasons why a lot of businesses have voted with their feet. Growing up, we had Aba Textile Mill in Aba, Factory Road, we had Bata, we had Lenners, we had Nigerian Breweries, Liver Brothers, BZ, International Equitable Association, all these were in Aba. But today, none of them exist. Abatetsami was easily the largest employer of labor. So government has a responsibility to ensure that those industries come back and actually a more improved version of those industries. And we'll do that. We use government resources to back that up.
How soon can you get that done? I mean, you're talking about industrializing Abia State, bringing back investment into Abia State, getting these companies back. How long can this take? And I asked earlier on, how many of these jobs can you get out?
We will have the first 4 years to do all this. And I'm sure by the time we begin to deliver results, people would beg us to do another 4 years, and probably another 4 years. So it is results that we are going to get. Now, in terms of numbers, hundreds of thousands of jobs will be created both directly and indirectly. And we'll flesh down to the specifics by the time we take over. Now, this government has started promoting civil servants just a few days before election. That is it. And we know that they're also owing them. Doctors today are on strike. They are being owed for 26 months. Civil servants are being owed. Abia State Polytechnic lost its accreditation last year for 30 months salary arrears that had not been paid to the workers. Abia State University Teaching Hospital has also lost its accreditation from the National Association of Resident Doctors. And the reason is that salaries are being paid. So it's just deceit and actually criminality for a government that will expire in less than 3 months to be promoting people when they haven't paid them their salaries. I think they just think that people are stupid. Our people are not stupid. And I also like to use this opportunity, Seun, to advise the government because the governor presides over meetings where threats are being issued. Oh, they are going to kill people. Everybody must vote for PDP. I'd like to assure them that I am actually in charge of the greater percentage of the people, and that we are not into violence doesn't mean that we cannot fight back. So election is coming up in less than a week. A lot of meetings are being held. People are being threatened. You must vote a particular party, otherwise you should move away. I would like to really, really let them know that, first of all, Abia people are not stupid. That they are tolerant doesn't mean they are stupid. And secondly, we're also not stupid. So we want an election that is credible, that is free and fair, and we would like to sound a note of warning that the government presided over by Governor Okezie should be held responsible if there's a breakdown of law and order. We are not going to tolerate it. We had already taken so much. Pensioners are being owed for about 56 months, and nobody has talked about it.
Mr. Oti, Mr. Oti, that may not be that may be unfair to him, since he's not here to be able to defend himself based on that.
You can bring him on.
Yeah, but
you can bring him on.
Let's close and let
we have credible intelligence.
Yeah.
We have credible intelligence. A government should not be involved in criminality and terrorism.
No, but those are strong words, Mr. Oti.
He has failed the election.
Yeah, those are strong words to use on him if he's not able to defend himself right now. But let me get your final thought. And just in about 30 seconds, if you may, I'd like to know, should you be elected governor of Abia State, what would you like Abia State to be noted for? And what perhaps would you want people of Abia State, if you were elected, to know you for in terms of governance and delivery?
Well, the first thing is good governance. Like I said, we have had a situation where people who do not stand on their feet take over the leadership of this. For the first time, someone who is a technocrat, who understands how the economy works, who will create jobs, who will ensure that the economy becomes a 24-hour economy rather than the 12-hour economy that it is today. Anytime it's 6 p.m., everybody disappears from the streets. And I talked about velocity of money somewhere. And I said, when your money goes to sleep by 6 p.m., it's useless. And it's only by 6 a.m. when you wake up that the money becomes useful again. Anytime money is changing hands, somebody is making money. But the governments that we have had do not understand how the economy works. This is a government that understands how the economy works. The wartime president of the United States, Franklin Roosevelt, had a policy that he called the New Deal. And that New Deal simply was about job creation. Just get people to do something at the end of the day, give them money. And when you pay them, you stimulate the economy. So this is a government that is not going to be corrupt, a government that will work for them. And I would like to call all of us and everyone to come out without fear of intimidation.
All right.
I am in charge, and we are going to ensure that everybody's vote is protected. And by May 29, we are going to have a new Abia of our dream. Thank you.
Dr. Alex Oti, Labour Party governorship candidate in Abia, said, thank you so much for your time, and I wish you the very best in the race. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you.
But that's our show for today, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. again. I'm sure Kimale, bless Nigeria.